Well, hello, and thanks for tuning in to this Selling Travel TV Travel Talk presentation. We're going to be talking about New England, a northeast region of the USA whose name is so familiar with British audiences that many think it's a state in its own right. But New England is the collective name for Massachusetts, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. 6 states that share a common geography and other similarities, but also have plenty of unique attractions of their own to tempt visitors. Here to explain more about the region is Chris Jennings, Executive Director of Discover New England. Hey Chris, thanks for joining us today.
It's great to be here, and hopefully we can do this in person before too much longer.
Oh, that's a nice thought. The travel picture here in the UK as of June 4, unfortunately remains rather mixed. Yesterday we were expecting an announcement from the government that would make travel to more countries easier, but instead we got the reverse. No new countries and the removal of Portugal, the one destination we hope we'd be going to this summer. But anyway, look, there was even speculation that some transatlantic air routes would be opening up sooner rather than later, but no news yet. I just wonder if we could start by me asking you, is there any chatter on your side of the pond when the country might open up to international visitors? And if there's any talk about the UK particularly?
Yeah, and similar to what you're seeing in the UK, in fact, I scour the British news every morning, like, is there anything new that, no, okay. And then about, I think 1 hour from now, I'm going to get a newsletter from Ireland, and that usually keeps up with some of that. The chatter is, you know, I think the G7 summit that's upcoming, middle of this month, will be some opportunity, maybe where the United States and its European counterparts can try to come up with some, I don't know if it's protocols or some agreement on what travel can happen. But we're hearing the same. July, early August, maybe as some air bridges opening up, but nothing official. No one wants to go online. I've even talked to the airports here, Boston Logan and Bradley Airport, which have international flights, and you know, if they know, they're not saying anything. Okay.
Well, US President Joe Biden will be over here in a week's time having dinner at Windsor Castle. So who knows, maybe US, UK travel might be on the menu.
I'm hoping. That would be nice.
Okay. The UK has always been an important market for your region. Can you quantify just how important and how much have you missed us?
Yeah, well, immeasurable. More than anyone knows, probably not as much as grandparents miss their grandkids, but similar. You know, international travel is major for our region. And as you mentioned, a lot of that is because we have a shared history here. Quantifiable, it's almost 300,000 visitors from the UK alone came to New England that we saw in 2019. 2020, that dropped to, I think it was under 50,000. We're hoping, if again, we can get some of these air bridges opened up in the next 6 months, that we can get up to 100,000, maybe 100,000 plus this year. But it's still a, 2/3 drop from our high in 2019.
Okay. I think the New England states, if I'm correct, are pretty much leading the country in terms of rate of vaccinations. Where are you in, you know, being open? What is open right now?
Well, and a couple of things. Being opened, frankly, May 29th, Massachusetts was the last state to sort of, they were the most careful, let's put it that way, really being very careful to make sure. And I think it was the 29th of May, they were now up to 100% capacity for things like a Boston Garden and major event venues. Vermont and Maine were also very close, but they're all open now. And not, you know, crazy open, but some cities have mask mandates still, but in large part, there are no travel restrictions for domestic. International, we still have some of that obviously going on. But you talked about vaccination rate. I checked this morning. If you look at the top 6 states in the United States, all New England states, starting with Vermont, almost 60% of their people have been vaccinated. Going all the way through New Hampshire, which has just about hit 50%. So all first 6 states are all New England states. I hope when travel starts again, that's going to be one of the hopeful signs for folks. We're safe. And as you can see over my shoulder here, we have some pretty cool outdoor recreation opportunities too.
So true to say that when we're ready and able to come, you're ready to welcome us.
For sure. In fact, I think this summer, you know, again, the domestic for us, the domestic travel has really taken off. I think more than even the travel offices expected. So when international opens up, that's just going to be tremendous opportunity for us all.
Okay, well, you mentioned Boston briefly there, and that's a city that UK visitors will be familiar with, and perhaps Providence, Rhode Island is another city in your region they will know, but largely New England's a region of wide open spaces, fresh air, coastal towns, and plenty of room to social distance. That sounds a perfect combination in the current climate.
It really is. And again, it's one of the things we saw actually a year ago when most were in lockdown. We had a lot of folks from, you know, New York area, Washington, D.C. coming this way when the restrictions were allowed to do that. But to spend, and they'd even spend quarantine here. I mean, a lot of these hotels were actually doing business and pleasure. So yes, the wide open spaces are available. In fact, we've actually run into a little bit of a situation where the states and the national forest, the state forest, they have to let visitors know, respect where you're going. Because again, it's been a bit of an over tourism, as you know, that term comes up. And folks have to realize you're in nature, respect the nature. But it's been a tremendous, really getting back into that, and a lot of outdoor recreation taking off. Winter and summer. I mean, winter, I think, you know, ski areas were really concerned a little bit about whether they could have, and they were able to navigate through that. It really worked out well for us.
Okay, let's just talk general about some of the characteristics that the states of New England share, but also some of those unique factors that make them individually worth visiting in their own rights. Is there anything you can point to?
You know, I'm born and raised in New Hampshire, one of the New England states, and working in this area for, well, I think it's been half of my professional career, at least. The common denominator, Yankees, New England, that's really, I think, the common theme. And when I say that, you know, coast, lobster, obviously a big deal. But as you can see also the mountains. And we're in the White Mountains, the Green Mountains. They're not the Rocky Mountains, but it's one of those things that defines us. History, obviously, the history there that I know the Brits don't want to hear too much about, but that's one of the things that we celebrate here. And a good example of that in Massachusetts, they actually started it's a digital, you can go online and find it, women, you know, women who, fame and folks that have been really trailblazers, women trailblazers. And these are Massachusetts women who really set their mark, not only in US history. But I think the common denominator probably is the, you know, the history, the heritage, and the outdoor recreation opportunities. I mean, it can be everywhere from Connecticut, which you have the beautiful western part of Connecticut, and the northeast part of Maine, all the way up to the Canadian border. There's a common theme there that really you don't find in other places. And you know this, Steve, you've been here and understand it very well. Hopefully your folks will understand that too when they come here. And there's a welcoming. I know the South gets the, you know, the South gets the hospitality award. They always get that. But New Englanders, you think you'll find that very much so. They're, where are you from? Oh, have you seen this? For example, last week, went just up on, we had a Memorial Day, your bank holiday, and we went up to the coast of Maine. Where are you guys from? Oh, we see you're from New Hampshire. What are you looking for up here? You're not going to be a stranger when you come to New England.
Okay. You mentioned skiing. In fact, Mount Snow in Vermont was the first place I ever skied. And it struck me that it's a fabulous destination in winter too, isn't it?
It really is. And, you know, in addition to the alpine skiing, which you're familiar with, Nordic skiing has been a big part. And my son, who's, you know, 30 something now, is doing this backcountry skiing, which many of your folks may know about, but it's literally like a cross between the two. It's I guess you walk up on the skis, you hike up with your skis on your feet, and then ski down. And that's become a major thing. Snowshoeing. I think the pandemic actually got a lot more folks outside during the winter. But major ski areas, and you know this around the US, been a lot of consolidation. So, you know, the companies that own Vail and Mount Snow, and they've coordinated, combined, and now you can get one pass and go to several different mountains as well. So not for a lack of things to do in the winter as well.
Okay. Let's talk about accommodation. You've got your fair share of 4-star and 5-star properties, but I think probably New England is best known for its B&Bs and its guest houses, its cottages that are a big part of the region's appeal. Would you agree with that?
I would. As a hotel brat, that's what my parents were in the business. They ran a 14 room hotel in the White Mountains. My grandparents worked. I grew up at the New England Inn in Intervale, New Hampshire. They worked there. So that smaller size. And the negative to that sometimes is, as you know, they don't have commissionable rates. So that's one of the things that we're trying to get to our industry is, look, the international traveler are coming here and they're tremendous and they want this experience. The B&Bs seem to get it. It's sort of fun. And I think that's probably because, as you know, in England, that is a way of life there too. But I don't want folks to think we don't have those 4- or 5-star accommodations just in the cities. Again, Westerly, Rhode Island has ocean houses, amazing. And then again, up in Maine, Cliff House, right on the border in York, it's beautiful. And these are $600, $800 a night hotels, and you get pampered. So there's an opportunity there for anyone in their taste and what they're looking for.
Okay. A region or a country's food and drink are a big draw card for travel, particularly for me. I know when I look forward to going to Boston, it's always to taste the clam chowder is something I look forward to. I'm guessing there are plenty of opportunities throughout New England to sample local produce. That farm to table experience is there in abundance, isn't it?
It really is. And again, I'm just going to go personal experience. This past weekend, my wife and I went to a local restaurant not 10 miles from where my office is. And this is in the small town of Dover, New Hampshire. This was an amazing menu. And like you talked about, farm to table, literally. The mushrooms, they mentioned what farm that came from. The asparagus, because that's the season right now, where that came from. And it is a new, I guess here, for the last 5 years has been a major, play that where your food's coming from, even the beef or the fish that you're buying. On my way home, Friday and Saturday night, oysters right out of the bay here. You can buy them on your way home and have them for dinner tonight. So very much so. And the neat part is now you're seeing these chefs really take this to heart and working with the farmers as well.
Okay. You mentioned the history and the heritage aspect. New England's often called the birthplace of America. For those that want to dig a little bit deeper into that history and that development of a nation, what are some of the historic sites that you would recommend?
Boston is obviously, you have to start in Boston because of the Freedom Trail, Tea Party, USS Constitution, the Old Ironsides, JFK Museum, obviously John F. Kennedy Museum. Tremendous. But then there's the not so well-known places. Sturbridge, Mass, as an example, hometown to Norman Rockwell. You should stop and see that museum. We were in Maine, as I mentioned, Wiscasset, Whaling area, New Bedford, Massachusetts. Connecticut has these. Mystic may be the better-known seaport area, but they also have these amazing little communities and frankly, historic sites that you have to experience. Some of those actually are tours, part of a tour where you could do a state park tour and go from one to the other. Vermont, again, another great opportunity for folks to get out, get into nature, but also check these, Shaker villages. I think 3 of our 6, maybe 4 New England states have the old Shaker village type community, which is very interesting religious community, but also has, the mark of them tremendously with their furniture and some of the things that they made. So those are, in my opinion, some of the jewels, the gems that you can find when you venture a little further away. And the locals will tell you about that. That's the best part. Every state now, if it's not on the local TV show, you can see it in Yankee Magazine or many of our periodicals. Here are the cool places that you have to see when you're there.
Arguably, New England's best explored under your own steam on a self-drive tour where your time is your own and you can meander at will. One of the things I think Brits don't quite understand is your national scenic byways sort of network. Could you explain a little bit about what that is and also the new ones that have just been added in the New England region?
Yeah, and this is, again, a way to explore, a way for people to get out and see the rest of, in our case, the rest of our country. For our international visitors, see, you know, the authentic America, let's put it that way. The scenic byways are designated. Again, it's one of these processes government uses to try and get an area that is not the typical four-lane auto road. It's more of a, you know, probably a 2-lane. It may be the Kankomagas Highway is what many folks know. The Kank, as we call it here. But now there's 6 more new ones have just been added. And each of these, again, each state has several of them. And it may be a scenic tour for fall. It may be one that goes along a coastal route. These are things where, again, it takes you to a place that from one spot to the other. But again, it might be an opportunity for your visitors to get a real feel for this is the real Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. And it's something that, again, a little bit of homework. Feel free to go to Discover New England or visit the USA websites to get this data. It's really good information to sort of help plan that trip.
Great. And you're a region that there's always new reasons for a return visit, and there's always new product coming on board and new attractions and new experiences. Is there anything else you can point to that is coming online, perhaps visitors coming at the end of this year or in 2022?
You know, it changes literally by the month now, and it's great. We, again, on our trip this weekend up the Maine coast, we heard about the Maine tasting room. And this is, again, one of the, you talked about this a little earlier, where you're getting local and some of this farm to table. So that is one of the new areas. Again, I think some of the new stuff that's coming out now is going to be heightened because people, you know, there's still some concern about crowds, as we all know. And many of them have, again, they may be at a full capacity, but they'll have ticketing. An example, in Boston, the Isabella Gardner Museum, Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. This is a tremendous art, and it's not new. They've just started to do some of these things with virtual tours, but also setting up a tour so you have time to spend there as well. If you haven't been, there's the Glass House in, this is amazing. I never saw it until just recently, and I saw the Glass House in Connecticut. As it is, but it is beautiful, set on an area that's just tranquil. So again, it depends on your taste, what you're looking for, but it can be everything from maritime museums, but then you get these little quirky, different, authentic, that are new and popping up all the time.
Sure. Okay. Finally, Chris, a couple of your own favorite personal experiences, some things that maybe you've done in New England that you look back on in fondness that perhaps might surprise our readers and our viewers here, and something they can pass on to their clients, and their clients might go, wow, didn't know that.
Well, again, I'm an outdoors person, born and raised in places not unlike this right over here in New Hampshire. But one of my favorites, outdoor recreation. You know, we came back to New England after being away for 10 years, and my wife and I both bought canoes, kayaks, I should say. So getting on the water, and you can do that pretty easily out here. Hiking. I'm a cyclist. I've picked this up in the last 10 years, and the roads, I have to say the roads in New England, for at least 5 months out of the year, are pretty easy to cycle on as well. Some of my favorites. We lived in Westerly, Rhode Island for 8 years. And that was a tremendous area because Mystic was right across the way, the Coast Guard Museum, 2 major casinos. Now, again, I'm not a gambler, but the entertainment, if you're into gambling, these are 2 of the biggest in the country. But if you want entertainment and food, Foxwoods, Mohegan Sun amazing. And now more casinos have come on since we've been away, but those two are amazing as well. And I have to say, places like, you know, Woodstock, Vermont has its own authentic charm. So again, it's hard for me to nail it down. I could pick one in each state. But again, I went to school. My college years were in Maine, in a little school called Bates College. Which is an old mill town. I don't know what it is that's in me, but I have a thing for mill towns, Steve. And so whenever I'm in Manchester, New Hampshire is an old mill town. They're all over New England, because then they all went south and, took over that area for the mills. But I love how they're reinventing themselves, and whether they're, making apartments out of them, but they're putting retail in there. And I'm reading about what's going on in Worcester, Massachusetts now. And I'm like, these are amazing stories. And you can tell I'm a little passionate about the area I grew up in, but that's one of these things. I have no clue. I grew up in the mountains of Mount Washington Valley, New Hampshire, but these mill towns just strike a chord with me. I think it's an amazing opportunity.
Thanks, Trish. Your passion has certainly come through, and you've whetted my appetite for a return visit, and I'm sure really piqued the interest of anyone watching this video. But thanks again for joining us today, and we hope to see you pretty soon on your side of the pond.
Please, me too.
Cheers.
Thank you, Steve.